Hi students, at the beginning of the food science portions, we have to discuss about the food spoilage. ഭക്ഷണ പദാർത്ഥങ്ങൾ കേടാവുക, that is food spoilage. As all of you know that, what is spoiling of food? Cooked, processed, as well as raw food gets spoiled. Sometimes it causes food intoxications and food infections. We can go in detail about the food spoilage. First, we can define food spoilage. Food spoilage refers to the deterioration of the physical and chemical properties of food by the influence of air, heat, light, moisture, which foster the growth of microorganisms, making it unfit for consumption. That the food makes it deteriorate is the causative organism is the microbes, or the entry of microbes deteriorate the food cells. Not only the entry of microorganisms, but also the enzymes present in the food, as well as the physical process, cuts, insects, pests, rodents also make the food unfit for consumption. But in any way, if the food is spoiled, is not fit for consumption, it is known as the spoiled food. So generally the food which deteriorate or start deteriorate as well as well deteriorate foods both comes under the spoiled food, and the process is known as the food spoilage. And food spoilage adversely affect the nutritive value, flavor, texture, color, etc. of the food. So we can clearly find that food is spoiled. But when we are thinking about the food spoilage, first thing we determine the causes of food spoilage. What are the reasons why the food gets spoiled? So the main causes of food spoilage are improper handling, improper storage, inadequate preparation, cooking, careless packaging. So first we go in detail about the improper handling. It refers to the workers who are not careful in transporting and handling, and not only transportation and handling, from the harvesting until the food is reached the consumer. The food handlers are there. If they are careless about the handling in the foodstuffs, even if it is processed or the raw, it will deteriorate the food's quality and it will easily spoil or deteriorate. So the improper handling is one of the most important cause of food spoilage. Second is the improper storage. The storage condition. You know very well that each foodstuff needs different storage conditions. For fruits and vegetables, we need a cool temperature, but in the case of cereals and pulses, we need a dry atmosphere to help them to keep safe for longer period. So in the case of potatoes and onions, we need a dry condition. So each type of food needs different conditions. If we think about the perishable foods, meat, fish, etc., then meat and fish, like fleshy foods, needs a frozen condition, but the fruits and vegetables need a refrigerated condition. So each type of foods need different storage conditions to improve their shelf life. When we are discussing about the shelf life, in the previous chapter we discussed about the perishable and non-perishable food. It should be kept in your mind. Shelf life is the normal time span of food that could be kept safe in room temperature, and by means of certain methods we can extend the shelf life. So low shelf life foods are known as the perishable foods, and the food with a longer shelf life is known as the non-perishable foods. Next is the inadequate preparation and cooking. If foods are not well prepared or cooked, it will lead to spoilage, and after preparation also the handling is important point. So proper cooking of the food is needed for the longer shelf life. Then careless packaging. Packaging is important as a keep bacteria should be kept out. So packaging is most important, and packaging is needed to keeping the microbes out, or preserving the moisture in the food. And for all these things, proper packaging is needed. The Tetra Paks or the fruity, Tetra Paks or the milk, etc. are the most hygienic packaging which prevents the entry of microbes as well as moisture and other contaminants into the food. So packaging is very important to improve the shelf life. Then types of food spoilage. There are three types of food spoilage. They are microbial spoilage, enzymatic spoilage, and spoilage by insects. Microbial spoilage, as the word denotes, it is caused by the microbes or the small organisms. So these are the microbial food spoilage. The main causative organisms are yeast, molds, and bacteria. Then enzymatic food spoilage is caused by the chemical substance naturally present in the food, which catalyze the chemical action in the food, and by which if it is not controlled and keeping in a particular storage condition, the chemical actions will go on and the food will deteriorate. The common example or the example everybody knows is the ripening of fruits. The ripening is caused by the enzymatic action, but when it came to a ripened stage, if it is not kept in a particular storage condition or it is not consumed, it will over ripen, and that over ripening is caused by the enzyme activity. If we control the enzyme activity, we can improve the shelf life of that particular fruit. Then spoilage by insects, worms, bugs, weevils, fruit flies, moths can cause extensive damages to the food and make it unfit for human consumption. Most probably, most of the cereals and pulses should be kept in a hygienic condition, otherwise the rat will invade. It is a common example, all of you know very well. Then microbial food spoilage, we can go deep into the microbial food spoilage. It occurs when food is contaminated with unwanted microorganisms. These grow and reproduce in food, producing certain chemicals, rendering the food poisonous. That is known as a food intoxication. When these foods are consumed, it will cause food poisoning and food infection. Mold, yeast, and bacteria are the major cause of food spoilage. While going to the next step, we can know something about the microorganisms, which are the favorable condition for the growth of microorganisms. There are 5 factors that is adversely affects the growth of microorganism, or it is needed for the proper growth of microorganism. If we control these factors, then we can hinder the growth and survival of the microorganism. The factors are, first is the moisture content, which is very important for the growth and survival of the microorganism. If go through the damaging foods by the microbes, we can see all of them are which all of them contains high moisture percent, around 80 to 85% moisture percent in fish, meat, milk, etc. All these are the perishable foods also. Then next comes the fruits and vegetables, all are also high in moisture content. These are the second highly perishable foods. So all these contains high moisture content, and so then itself we know the microbes needs high moisture content for their growth and survival. So moisture is one of the main or the important factor for the growth and reproduction of microbes. The second factor is the temperature. You know, whenever we want to preserve a food or whenever we want to keep a food for longer time, we heat it. So application of heat destroys the microbes. Then itself we can understand that the heat is a major factor which helps the growth and survival of the microorganism. So we are keeping it in a high temperature or we keeping it in a low temperature. So obviously the optimum temperature is the room temperature for the growth and survival of microorganisms. So room temperature is the optimum condition for the growth and survival of the microorganism. Then the third one is the aerobic and anaerobic conditions. Aerobic condition is the presence of oxygen. Most of the foodborne microbes needs oxygen for the growth and survival. Absence of oxygen will hinder the growth and survival of the microorganism. So aerobic condition is needed. To keep the anaerobic condition, we are while pickling the oil layer is on the top, so which hinder the contact with the atmosphere and the foodstuff. Thereby there is no aerobic condition forms. That's a common homely way to create anaerobic conditions. Because when it is kept open, the moisture attack also occurs, which reduce the shelf life of the pickles. So anaerobic condition or the hindering the availability of oxygen, we can keep the food safe. So normal oxygen is needed for the growth and survival of the microbes, except one microbe, that is Clostridium botulinum. Clostridium botulinum is an anaerobic bacteria. So in itself we know this Clostridium botulinum causes botulism, and it is affected by or it is seen in the canned foods. Canning is carried out in an anaerobic condition, which will be studied in later chapter. So this is the one and only harmful foodborne bacteria that causes harmful effects to the human beings. But all other foodborne bacteria or the bacteria that infect food is aerobic bacteria. Then the moisture, temperature, oxygen, then the pH value. The acidic and the alkaline pH is harmful for the microbes. Neutral pH is the optimum condition for the growth and survival of microorganisms. There are a lot of examples. If you go through it, you can see it clearly. We are adding citric acid to the fruit and fruit juices when we are preparing squashes and jams. We are using vinegar for pickles. All are providing an acidic medium which hinder the growth and survival of the microorganism. And the fifth is the nutritive value. Highly nutritious foods are highly perishable food also. You know it very well. Meat, fish, egg, foods and vegetables all are nutritionally rich foods. So they will survive in the very easily. All the factors are favorable for in all these foods. All the factors are favorable for them. So they will grow readily in that book, and then that type of foods, making it highly perishable. And one more thing you have to know about the microbes is that especially for the bacteria, when there is an unfavorable condition occurs, they form a covering or protective covering around the unicellular organism, that is the spore formation, and the forming cover is known as the cyst. Then a cyst is formed if we are increasing the temperature. First, when temperature increases, some of the microbes are destroyed, but other microbes quickly accustomed with the situation and forms a outer covering known as the cyst, and the formation is known as the spore formation. By a covering is formed, that cover is resistance to high temperature, resistance to the moisture changes, resistance to the pH changes, or the outer covering is highly resistant to the adverse conditions. Whenever there is a adverse conditions happens, this unicellular organisms forms a covering, a protective covering known as the cyst, and they are embedded in that cyst. When there is favorable condition occurs, they rupture the cyst and form and become there in a vegetative form. The liable form is commonly called as vegetative form, and the embedded form is known as the cyst or the spore form. So this is the common things or the basic things we have to know about the microbes, and the study of the microbes are known as the microbiology. And the microbiology have generally two branches. There are more branches, but basically we can divide it into medical microbiology and the food microbiology. But the topic we are moving on is the food microbiology, in which we are discussing only about the microbes which are related to the food industry only. There are beneficial microbes as well as the harmful microbes. All of you know about the harmful microbes, that is the food infections and the food intoxication, and there are beneficial microbes that you know about the fermentation process. So there are both beneficial and the problematic microbes in foods. So we are going to the microbes related to the food only. But at this time you have also known about there are certain beneficial microbes in our body itself. That microbes, that is most probably they are bacteria. They are beneficial for us. They have a positive role in our body functioning. So there are a lot of good microbes as well as the bad microbes in all categories, in molds, in yeast and in bacteria. And when in this topic we are discussing about the microbes, especially mold, yeast and bacteria, that is closely related to food industry. Both positive and negative side of the microbes are discussing in the further slides. So then we can move forward. First is the molds. Molds means all of you are very familiar with molds. പൂപ്പൽ നിങ്ങൾ ബ്രെഡിൻ്റെ മുകളിലും പിക്കിളിൻ്റെ മുകളിലും ഒക്കെ കാണപ്പെടുന്ന പൂപ്പലാണ് മോൾഡ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. മോൾഡ് ഇസ് ഒരു ഫ്ലഫി ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു സ്ട്രക്ചർ ഗ്രോ ചെയ്യുന്നതിന് മോയ്സ്റ്റ് കണ്ടീഷൻ ഫുഡ്സിൽ മോയ്സ്റ്റൻഡായിട്ട് വെക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ അതിൻ്റെ മുകളിലുണ്ടാകുന്ന ഗ്രോത്തിനെയാണ് മോൾഡ് എന്ന് ത്രെഡ് ലൈറ്റായിട്ടുള്ള ഡെവലപ്മെൻറ്റിനെയാണ് മോൾഡ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. മോൾഡ്സ് സ്പോർസ് ഫോം ചെയ്യുന്നത് ത്രൂ സ്പോർ ഫോർമേഷൻ ദേ റീപ്രൊഡ്യൂസ്. ബാക്ടീരിയ ആണെങ്കിൽ ബൈനറി ഫിഷനിലാണ് നിങ്ങൾ പഠിച്ചിട്ടുള്ള കാര്യങ്ങളാണ് അതെല്ലാം തന്നെ. മോൾഡിലാണെങ്കിൽ സ്പോർ ഫോർമേഷൻ വഴിയാണ് എന്തുകൊണ്ട് നെക്സ്റ്റ് ജനറേഷൻ ഉണ്ടാകുന്നത്. സോ ദീസ് ആർ ദ നെക്സ്റ്റ് ജനറേഷൻ ഓഫ് ദ yeast or the molds or the fungus. So these molds is the first microbe we are going to study. Then we are moving to the molds. Molds, meaning the most important factor we have to know about the toxins produced by the molds. When mold grows in a food substrate, it produces certain chemical substances as a part of their growth and reproduction, and these toxins are known as the mycotoxin. And this toxicity, this is an enterotoxin, affect the digestive system. So these are the mycotoxin, and the disease is caused, or the intoxication is known as the mycotoxicosis. And in mycotoxin, the most common and fatal one is the aflatoxin. This aflatoxin is produced by aflatoxin. Aspergillus flavus category is the causative organism causing the aflatoxin, and the intoxication is known as the aflatoxicosis. Most of this aflatoxin is found in the dry food, dry cereals, pulses, peanuts, etc. It is found as a fungus growth on the surface of the dried cereals, pulses and nuts. So this is a intoxication produced by the molds. Then the microorganism, you should be thorough with the microorganism Aspergillus family. And Aspergillus family's major species is the Aspergillus flavus causing aflatoxin, and the intoxication is known as aflatoxicosis. This is the Aspergillus flavus fungus in under the electron microscope. Then next is the bacteria. Bacteria is also an unicellular microorganism, smaller in size than the yeast and molds. Bacteria are the most widespread microorganism present in food, causing largest damage in food. They are single called the varying shapes, round, broad and spiral shaped. These are the different shapes of bacteria. Round shaped are the coccus bacteria. Rod shaped are the These are the rod-shaped bacteria. These are the rod-shaped bacteria. They are known as a bacillus, green color. The blue color is the round-shaped bacteria, cocci, and the spiral-shaped bacteria, spirillum. These are the three shapes of bacteria found in the food industry. In foods. These are the three. There are one more bacteria, that is Vibrio bacteria, that is of a comma shape but not commonly found in food industry, so not discussing in this. They are more dangerous than yeast and molds because they can spoil food without causing any change in the smell, appearance or the taste. Bacteria may grow under a wide variety of conditions. Bacteria generally prefer low acid foods like vegetables and meat. In order to destroy bacteria spores in a relatively short period of time, low acid foods must be processed for the appropriate length of time at 116 degrees centigrade in a pressure scanner. So this is the destruction of bacteria. Then bacteria are causing food intoxication and food infection. So, wind intoxication is the toxins produced by the bacteria or mold into the food. Both mycotoxin and the bacterial toxin causes food intoxications. This is the toxin produced by the bacteria, and which when the human beings consume these toxins, we get intoxicated. Food infection are caused by the pathogens itself. The pathogens are entering into the food, entering into the human body, causing the disease. So that is the food infections. It is the attack of the microbes itself. It attacks different parts of the body. But intoxication is the toxins produced by the microbes when consumed, causing toxic or the poisonous effect. Some of the common bacteria that causes food poisoning or food intoxication are Clostridium perfringens, Clostridium botulinum, Salmonella species, Staphylococcus species. This Clostridium is a one species. There are Clostridium perfringens and Clostridium botulinum. In Clostridium botulinum is the most important bacteria found in the canned foodstuffs. The leaked and bulged canned foods can be used by a human being because it may contain Clostridium botulinum. It is the most fatal one also. It is a neurotoxin affecting the nervous system. So, and the disease caused is the botulism. It is a neurotoxin. All other are a enterotoxin affecting the digestive system. Except Clostridium botulinum, all other are enterotoxins. So the symptoms ranging from the vomiting, diarrhea, dizziness, headache, etc. But as the Clostridium botulinum is a neurotoxin, is affecting the nervous system. So it first affects the eyesight and the nervous system. So it is fatal than the other enterotoxins. So you should beware of the canned foods that are leaked or bulged. Cannot use the canned foods which is bulged or leaked, and at the same time after opening use it completely. Don't keep it in refrigerator and reheat it. Use directly. If there are excess, just discard it. Don't reuse it. It will cause botulism. And the peculiar thing about the botulism is Clostridium botulinum is an anaerobic bacteria. So it can survive in the anaerobic conditions. So it in itself, the canned foods, they are multiplying the anaerobic bacteria may be in it. So never ever use leakage or deteriorated canned foods. So it is a neurotoxin or another enterotoxin. You doesn't need to know about the details, but it can be asked for the objective type questions. Then some of the common microbes that cause food infections include cholera and E. coli, Entamoeba histolytica, causing amoebic dysentery, cholera, etc. The example for food infections. These are the bacteria causing infections. Then the next microorganism is the yeast. All of you know what is yeast. In common household, we are commonly using yeast for the preparation of many foodstuffs. So we can move in detail about the yeast. Yeast are unicellular organism coming under the kingdom fungi. Some yeast termed as false yeast, which is harmful to humans. It grows as a dry film on the surface of acidic, high sugar content food items such as pickles and jams. It is a film, oil-like film on the surface of the pickles and jams. During their growth, they produce certain metabolic products that causes physical and chemical changes in food, resulting in food spoilage. Next is the useful changes brought about by the microorganism. First, we can think about the yeast, because all of you are familiar with the usage of yeast in your household. Yeast is a beneficial agent used in various food preparation. Fermentation is a desirable change brought about by the action of yeast. When the yeast is added, yeast converts sugar or the carbohydrate content, sugar content or starch content into alcohol, and the byproduct is carbon dioxide is produced. That is the action of yeast in starch or sugar, which results in the batter or dough to rise. This raising of batter occurs due to the carbon dioxide production. When the carbon dioxide is produced, it is embedded in the batter itself, and when heat is applied, this carbon dioxide expands and it makes it porous fluffy and spongy. So that is the fermentation. Sugar present in the food are broken into alcohol and carbon dioxide produced. That alcohol production gives the particular taste for the food, fermented foods, and that production of carbon dioxide makes the fermented food fluffy, soft, and spongy. Because everybody knows that when the air heat is applied to the air expands. That expansion of air in a limited space, it causes holes that makes it porous and spongy, and that is a peculiarity of fermented foods. Then the bacteria are commonly used in dairy products, sour cream, fresh yogurt, or srikhand. All these are prepared by the bacterial fermentation. In the curd, we are using curd as a starter, and when curd is added to the milk, it curdles and forms the curd. It is a lactobacillus bacteria acting on the curdling process. So it is a normal household method of bacterial fermentation. In srikhand, yogurt, and other cheese, etc., we are adding artificially prepared bacterial culture into the milk substrate and makes it to ferment and coagulate the protein part. And by the coagulation of protein part, the cheese, yogurt, srikhand are prepared. But the changes in the taste and flavor and texture is due to the difference in the bacterial culture added to the milk. So it is the bacterial culture affects the flavor, texture, and behavior of the particular product. Or by adding the different cultures of bacteria, we can prepare different types of cheese, different flavored yogurts, different flavored curds, different flavored srikhand can also be prepared by the use of different bacterial cultures. Then the fermentation of vegetables can also be conducted, and the main example of srikhand is the fermented cabbage. Then the next is the fermentation example products are the vinegar, wine, beer, and all the alcoholic beverages. In the alcoholic beverages, fermentation is combined with distillation process, and the distillation is giving the high alcoholic content in the whiskey, brandy, and rum. But the basic procedure starts with the fermentation. Then spoilage by enzymes. This is the second type of food spoilage causing by the enzymes. Then we can basically know about what is enzymes. Enzymes are the special protein which speeds up the chemical reaction and acts as a biological catalyst. They can cause fruit to ripen. This is the chemical substance present in the, it's a catalyst present in the both plant and the animal foods. Fresh fruit and vegetables normally keep enzymes trapped in the tissues. When fresh food substances are kept at room temperature for more than a specific period of time, enzymes catalyze chemical reaction in them and cause undesirable changes in color, texture, and flavor. These changes in food enables microorganisms to contaminate the food, leading to food spoilage. The example is the over-ripened fruits and vegetables. As the chemical reaction goes on, the ripening also goes on, resulting in the over-ripening makes the food so soft and rich in moisture. At that condition, the microbes enter the foodstuffs and makes it spoiled or deteriorate. Enzymes are sensitive to heat and are easily destroyed by heat. Therefore, enzyme activity can be prevented by heating food to temperature which inactivate the enzymes. The major example is the blanching process. In the blanching process, we are just putting the vegetables in a simmering water and just quickly removing it from the simmering water. So there is an heat applied, but there is not that much of heat applied to make it to turn it into a cooked form, but just heat applied to inactivate the enzymes, but the color and the enzymes are completely destroyed. Surface microflora is destroyed, but the color and the fresh texture is preserved. So it's a blanching process is an very apt example for the deactivation of enzymes in fruits and vegetables. This is a process carried out in the canning procedure. Then cooling also hinders the enzyme activity, that is refrigeration and freezing also deters the enzyme activity. Enzyme react with the oxygen of the atmosphere, result in the oxidation of various nutrients like thiamine, aspartic, carotene. This lowers the nutritive value of food. And example for the reaction with oxygen is the browning reaction found in apples, found in bananas, or other examples of the enzyme activity. When we cut the banana or the apple, their surface become darkened. That is a browning reaction, and it is known as the enzymatic browning. When we cut the fruits, then the enzymes embedded in the cells are exposed to the atmospheric oxygen. When they react with the atmospheric oxygen, the brown color is formed, and it is known as the enzymatic browning reaction. This is also an ill effect of enzymatic oxidation. Next is the spoilage by insects, parasites, and rodents. Infestation by insects, pests, and rodents also account for huge loss of food due to spoilage. The rat invasion, weevil, etc. are the example for this. These leave behind fecal saliva and body parts in the products, especially in cereals, and the pulses are the main products that is contaminated with insects, parasites, and rodents. So we should keep the storage conditions hygienic, clean, and free of rodents and pests. Then food availability statement. This is a food availability statement. As the food grain production has increased, but people still remain hungry. This is the red line shows the country's food production through the years from 1951 to 2016. The food availability is increased drastically, but the net availability of food grains per person per year is decreased. And the first time this difference is very low, but in 1991 they are joined, but after that again the food availability and food availability is decreased rather than the even if the production is increased. So per capita or per person food availability means ഒരാൾക്ക് ഒരു വർഷത്തേക്ക് എത്ര ഫുഡ് വേണം, ആ അവൈലബിലിറ്റി ആണ് പറയുന്നത്. ഫുഡ് ഗ്രെയിൻസ് പെർ പേഴ്സൺ പെർ ഇയർ ഇൻ kg ആണ് കൊടുത്തിരിക്കുന്നത്. അതെന്ത് ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ട്, ഡിക്ലൈൻ ചെയ്ത് വരുന്നുണ്ട്, പക്ഷേ നമ്മുടെ ഫുഡ് പ്രൊഡക്ഷൻ കൂടിക്കൊണ്ടേയിരിക്കുന്നു. വാട്ട് വിൽ ദിസ് ഷോ? വാട്ട് ഈസ് യുവർ കൺക്ലൂഷൻ? That is right. The food production increased, but we are not able to preserve the foods, or we are not able to utilize the extra produced food source for the population. Of course, there is a reason. The increase in the food population may also reduces the food availability per person, but the food is around 40% of the produced foodstuffs are deteriorate or spoiled during a year. The total production is increased drastically. Of course, the population also increased, but still around 40% is spoiled, means major portion of the food production is going to wane, and this is due to the spoilage. So what can we do to avoid spoilage? Think. Okay, we can create a road to reduce the wastage, that by harvesting, collecting raw foods carefully. We have to harvest and collect the foods very carefully, storing the food properly, handling and transporting the food promptly, and preserving the food adequately. During the seasonal time, we have to collect or harvest the food carefully, store it properly, handle and transport it properly, and the remaining foods which are used by the population but remaining should be properly preserved. So these are the things we can do to avoid food spoilage. Thank you.